I normally love to kind of bounce back and forth in presentations and give you content and come back and see how that's resonating and hitting and feeling for you. We have got a short amount of time together here today, and I've got a lot to talk about, and I want to get that all in there. But I also think that your voice is so very important, and your experiences are not only valid and valuable to share, but they give one another something. So I'm going to encourage you to keep lighting up that chat. Okay, do not hesitate over there. And if there are things that I am saying that just really hit you and resonate, put it in the chat, share a story, comment like an, oh yeah, amen, sister, or like even to refer to each other, Deb, I hear you, or whatever that is. Feel free to kind of just join each other over there. Chris is going to keep a close eye over there too. I will watch it from time to time and bring it up if it really is a powerful sentiment to add, to share. So without further, pause, let's get rolling. We are here to talk today about toxic positivity. And I think maybe the first question I'm going to pose to you and for you to kind of like add into the chat for all of us to see is, would you say that you've experienced toxic positivity in your cancer experience or cancer during the time that you've had a diagnosis of cancer? And yeah, I'm getting some yeses. I'm even seeing some nods there. And it's an awkward thing. I'm going to also talk about sometimes I think we even have some toxic positivity for ourselves, and that can kind of be tricky too. As a woman with metastatic breast cancer, or as an individual with metastatic breast cancer, I think that sometimes that experience of toxic positivity might even feel even more profound, because it leaves others feeling really unsettled about what to do and what to say. And that's something that you shouldn't have to navigate, but often is sitting there for you. So let's get going here, and let's see if any of this that I've got to share hits you. Toxic positivity. Okay, so what is this? I don't probably need to define this, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, when I'm saying toxic positivity, it is that unrelenting pressure to be positive and happy, sunshines and rainbows and hope and motivated and engaged with all of life all the time, right? And, if you sit back, as I began to really research and listen in, I mean, I've sat with a lot of my clients and we talk about this often in my office. So you're not alone in experiencing this. It's a common thread that comes up. And you know what I'll tell you is that sometimes the way it comes up is that my clients sit in my office and they say, I shouldn't feel this way, or I hate that I'm feeling this way. And I begin to hear that. I'm like, what's going on, right? Like, what is this pressure we all are experiencing to feel positive and happy and coping and resilient all the time? This toxic positivity is deeply ingrained in many different areas of our culture. So today I'm sitting with all of you, and we're going to be real honest about how it's in the culture of health and wellness, right? And in wellness, that whole very inspirational and, think your way positive and manifest, what you want for yourself. All of that is very much kind of out there in the culture. But we also kind of see it a lot in self-help culture. In religion, a lot of times religion has plays in this. Race, that this isn't a problem, or it's all going to be okay. Politics and athletics, certainly with athletics, we've seen it quite a bit too, right? So when you kind of sit back and look at that, toxic positivity is popping up a lot of different places in our world. Okay, but wait, I think of myself as a positive person. Is that bad? And I am sitting in front of you today as somebody who I think of myself as a positive, optimistic, energetic person. Are we vilifying positivity and happiness? No. Positivity and happiness are not inherently toxic. We're not throwing that out when we talk about toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is when those feelings of positive and happiness become toxic, right? When the sentiments cross a line and they can feel dismissive or minimizing. It also often has to do with the timing, the audience, and the topic. If you're in the presence of somebody experiencing quite a bit of distress and you throw in that positivity, then the timing of that is off, right? It doesn't match where somebody is right now. It's not actually helpful at this time. It's crossing a line, it's minimizing, it's dismissing it, it's pushing it away. So, but I just felt like I wanted to make sure that all of you knew that and said that the positivity and happiness they're important and healthy feelings too. It's just watching the balance of that. And we're going to talk more about what that means. So, toxic positivity from others, it shuts down the conversation, right? It's like puts a clamp on it, like can't go there. It focuses immediately on problem solving or fixing it. You know what, you should just think your way. The way of your head is the way of, the day. So, they think that the way you change your thoughts, think about it in a different way. Or, you know what, I think you've got lots of other friends that care and love you. That sense of I don't want to sit in this with you. I want to clean it up, tie it all down, organize it. And in doing that, we avoid the discomfort of what's honest and what's real. I think that toxic positivity also misunderstands the presence of more than one feeling. You know what I mean? You can be grateful and also struggling, right? So when somebody says, well, just, you have so much to be grateful for. Well, I am aware of that. I am grateful, but I'm also really struggling and I'm really kind of having a hard time with this. And today I feel sad and I feel hurt and I feel scared. That you can feel connected and loved and also very alone, right? So I think toxic positivity oversimplifies. It's not nuanced enough. It's a lacking of understanding that there are many different feelings in the mix with a cancer diagnosis or with a stressor. And because of that avoidance, because of that need to immediately fix and problem solve, a lot of times with those individuals that are kind of giving us that toxic positivity, we miss an opportunity. It's a missed opportunity for real connection, for really meeting somebody where they are and being seen and being heard and feeling valued. So I'm just going to kind of just pause. I want to look over there. I know I said I wouldn't do this, but I just kind of got to know where I'm landing. Is this hitting you? Do you feel this? Is this resonating? Have you been here before? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. Good. Yep. Okay.
I think we had a question, maybe,
Yeah.
Michelle, maybe if I was going to remind everybody that if you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end, or maybe try to work our way in. Maybe if Julie goes over whatever.
Keep finding it, right? I'm going to keep my eye on that time, but I want to kind of meet you where you are too. So I'm saying, is it okay if I read? I'm going to read some of these. I won't use your name, but I'll just kind of read them if that's okay. They're there. When people attribute doing well to positivity, what's the opposite? If my scan shows a new tumor, was I not positive enough? Exactly. So somewhat you're talking about what I'm hearing in that statement is that if something isn't going well, is it my fault? Is it something that I've done? If I'm not positive enough, is that supposed to kind of contingent my health, my hope is contingent on that positivity and that happiness. And we've got to kind of disengage from that. I'm going to talk a little bit too more about shame and blame that kind of pops up into this too. Keep talking over there. I'm going to keep going over here. Okay. So this last slide was toxic positivity from others. As I introduced this workshop today, you heard me say, I think sometimes that toxic positivity also shows up within ourselves. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, toxic positivity are shades of it. We can call it a lot of different things, but toxic positivity can also feel that fight that we feel when we're struggling. So feeling guilty or shame for I should be doing better. The shoulds that are laced with like shame, like I should be doing better, or like I am just not okay. And everybody else, that comparing to others when laced with self-criticism, right? Rigid expectations of myself. Like I need to be doing these things and I'm not, and I'm falling short, not enough, scarcity, minimizing or dismissing struggle, and pretending that you're okay when you know deep in there you're not. So listen, there is sometimes necessity and having to kind of put forth a different presence of ourselves, like when we're like compartmentalize our feelings, like when we need to attend at work, or when we maybe need to get through something and we need to compartmentalize some of our feelings. So I'm not necessarily talking about that, because I talk a lot in my office about bookmarking hard moments and saying, I'm going to circle back to this later. I can't focus on this right now, but I'm going to come back to it. But when it's like constantly pretending and feeling some degree of shame or self-negativity, that you are struggling. And I'm going to talk about what do we do with that down here in a couple of slides. Cautionary statement. So again, I told you, as I was researching to write this workshop, I was looking at a lot of different articles and different research around toxic positivity. And I found this study from 2009, which I was like, whoa. And it was talking about self-affirmations or positive self-statements. So that's one thing that people will often, that's the way toxic positivity is sometimes delivered, right? And affirmations are statements like, look on the bright side, or, God doesn't give you any more than you can handle, or you can do hard things, all those types of things. And that sometimes even the self-help that we hear is to say those positive affirmations. And in fact, I say it in my office too, right? How do you kind of give yourself messages of hope and messages of empowerment? But cautionary statement, if there's a gap between what you're saying to yourself and what you believe about yourself, then shame bubbles up in that gap, right? Like I'm not even measuring up to what I'm telling myself. And there was in 2009, there was a study looking at the positive impact of positive self-statements. And the most significant results were in individuals with low self-esteem, and that impact was negative, meaning that if we're saying those things and we don't believe them to be true, then we're kind of setting ourselves up for that hurt too. What do we do about that? Okay, so I got something for you. So what do we do? Connect your affirmations. So I'm still going to go with that. I think there is also research that says that that's helpful. Connect your affirmations to action statements. So for example, here's some examples. I am strong when I'm honest about my limits and I don't pretend I'm okay. So in other words, when I can accept that there's some vulnerability and some fragility in me, that honesty is strong. That takes a lot of courage. I am doing the best I can when I take time to notice how I feel and pay attention to what I need. That is my best effort to take care of myself when I'm cultivating that habit of noticing what's going on for me and attending to what I'm needing. And again, I've got a slide on that coming up. I love myself when I take time to go for a walk, or when I get to bed on time. Like, hey, I notice that I feel different in these moments. And so that's when, hey, I notice I feel good, or I feel more confident, I feel more calm when I have done these actions or these things. So if we can tie that to actions, that feels probably a bit more honest, a bit more real. Because if we're being honest, and this is a lot of what I talk about when I'm sitting with people individually in my office, your emotions, I think of things in circles or in pictures. Do any of you think of things in pictures? And when I think of the journey of an emotional moment, I think of a circle. So maybe you can begin to join me in thinking of it as a circle too. So something triggers us and we feel an emotion. So something happens and we feel left out, or we feel hurt, or we feel irritated and impatient, or we feel scared. Okay, so we have a triggering event, and then we have that struggle. So I'm in a moment of struggle. That moment of struggle is filled with fear, it's filled with uncertainty, worry. Okay, and if we don't take a moment to stop and to notice it, then we can't get under what you're needing, right? If we're like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, button it up, shut it down, throw it away, put it away, then we're missing the opportunity to pay attention to what we can learn in that moment. What do I need? And then after that, where do I have control? So I'm figuring out, what I'm needing is connection. What I'm needing is clarity. What I'm needing is consideration. What I'm needing is comfort. What I'm needing is perhaps some joy or some levity, some humor. So where do I have control? What is something or someone I can turn to or I can do that will maybe help me begin to meet that need? Okay. So think of that full circle. Another picture to kind of give you that is that, and this is something to chew on, right? To kind of just take from this talk together today and begin to watch and pay attention to for yourself, is that when your needs are met, you probably feel pretty calm, happy, grateful, content, comfortable, right? Like when our needs are met, we feel that way. When your need is not met, when there's an unmet need, there's a distressing or more unsettled or uncomfortable feeling within you. So what need is pushing at you and giving you that feeling? What are you needing? Okay. It's what's under the surface. And when I'm sitting with my clients in therapy, that's what I'm really listening for and helping to kind of like, I'm wondering if, or I'm curious about. You can begin to get curious about that for yourself. Okay. Face to face with toxic positivity. And this is with others. Okay. I would say learn to recognize it. Okay. So it's usually an oversimplified response. It's quick, it's oversimplified. It allows for only one side of the emotion, like we were talking about, right? Oh, don't it's not your fault. You shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel worried. You've got a great team. You're doing all you can. You've got tons of friends that are available. That problem solving piece, that one-sidedness of it. And it often, when you're a step away from that, leaves you feeling misunderstood, incomplete, maybe some shame or self-doubt. Okay. That's when you know you've kind of been hit by toxic positivity. Slow down. So when you see it and you slow down, and then you're going to make a choice how you safely proceed. Does this person that I'm in contact with right now have the capacity to get it, to listen to me, to understand what they're dishing out? They may not know, right? This might be what they've always known to say or what the habit, oftentimes those toxic positive statements are well-intentioned. They come with like a little bit of just kind of not knowing, naiveness. They're not aware of what that's making you feel or how that comes off. So does that person on the other side of the conversation have the capacity to get this and to learn? I don't know. If so, if you decide, yeah, this is one of my close people, this is my inner circle, this is somebody who really loves me and they can tolerate that, then how do you proceed forward? By being honest and kind about how those statements feel to you. So you're going to kind of educate them. You're going to teach them how to love you, and in the kindest way. And you might begin by, I know that it's hard to know what to say. I hear you, and I know you're trying to help, but sometimes the very best thing for me is just to vent and to be honest about how heavy this all is. Okay. So you're going to kind of meet them where they're at. You're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? I know that you mean well and that this is hard, but I got to be honest. Sometimes all I need is to vent. Does that make sense? So that step one, though, can we go back up a point? Go back up before that, because it was make a choice for how you safely proceed. Does this person have the capacity? Okay. Not everybody's going to have the capacity to hear that. So you've got to have some self-wisdom in there. And I've got it. My next slide's going to give you a little of that. And then if you decide, no, this is not somebody's going to get that, then your choice is to turn, right? So we're at this intersection. You're going to proceed or you're going to turn. And in that moment, there's an awareness that they're not going to get this. And that's going to be further distressing and uncomfortable and a lot of work for me. I'm going to shift this conversation. I'm just going to take the reins and I'm going to shift it. I'm going to move over to, you know what? I think you just went on vacation. Tell me how that went. Or last time we talked, you were talking to me about work. So we don't need to stay with the spotlight of cancer all on you because they're doing it wrong. And so, but unfortunately, the ball is in your court. The spotlight is on you. So you got to be the one to shift. And I know that's yucky, right? And why is it on me? But it is. And until you do, you're just going to be standing there in the mess of the awkward conversation. So shift it. Okay. Who do we know who's who? Okay. So I'm going to ask everybody to kind of sit back and think about all of the people in your life, all of them, whether that's your family, your friends, your neighbors, maybe it's a community of faith, maybe it's your coworkers, maybe it's your reading book club or your, pickleball group. I don't know what you do, but all the people in your life. Now, can you identify the 1, 2, maybe 3 people? Usually this is a very small group of individuals who 100% know the right thing to say or not say, who respond and care for you exactly how you need. What I want you to do in this exercise is we're going to categorize your people. And I use the categories of FDR. I remember FDR because it's like president and there's a highway in New York. So it makes me think it's easy for me, FDR. And if you can think of those individuals who know exactly how to care for you, exactly what to say, they probably also celebrate you without being competitive or jealous. These are your feeling friends. This is F. This is your F group. Feeling. They get you. They're available. Now, this second group of people are your D people. And the Ds are generally the largest number of people. They care, they are interested, they want to know how you are, you matter to them, but they don't know quite what to do with the intensity of the feelings, right? They kind of freeze, they clamp up, they fumble, they might deliver these kind of toxic positive statements, well-intentioned, but all off. They just don't know what to do with it. It's uncomfortable for them. But goodness, they do want to help you. You give them something to do, right? You know what? I would love for somebody to help me, organize this. Or I've been needing somebody to communicate with my colleagues at work. Everybody I know is asking, and I don't have the energy to say things over and over again. Would you be open to kind of just sharing an update, a simple update with people? Give them something to do. I need some help at home with the X, Y, and Z. Do you think that would be something you would have the time for? They are ready. Did I mute somehow?
Yep, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, well, how long ago?
Just a few seconds.
Well, that's funny. Well, I'm back. I didn't even touch anything. So I was talking about your D group, right? So the people that are there to help you. And then finally are the R's. And the R's, think of the people again in your life. These folks may feel like a disappointment. They may not ask ever or reach out. And they might have hurt your feelings. And yet there are times they, much like the D people, can't handle the emotion. And frankly, they're too busy and they're too consumed in their own lives to do anything. They sometimes feel hurtful. But if we're being honest, and I've sat with tons of cancer survivors, there are times when you might be sick and tired of talking about your cancer diagnosis, when you do not want it to be the center of the evening or the day. You know what? That's a time to get close to an R friend. They won't ask you a doggone thing. They won't ask you how you're doing. They won't ask you how you are, where you've been. They're not going to touch it. And sometimes if you need an escape, if you need to parachute out, they might feel pretty safe. All right. So sometimes categorizing our people helps to protect you, helps you to feel like, oh, I'm going with what I'm needing to the right person. I'm just going to stop the share real quick. I'm going to take a quick look over there at the chat, and also invite you to.
I was about to ask the chat if anybody had any R friends who came to mind, because I know I did. I see a lot of head nods.
And
it's just unfortunate, but it's just a reality that we have to face. Yeah.
And I have whole talks on communication and friends, right? This isn't that one, but our friends, if you think of them as like respite, if you think of them as like an island over here where maybe you can even go to escape cancer for a second, that kind of leaves them so that our friends ebb and flow a little bit. I'm seeing other things in here.
Yeah, I'm seeing that I see one that says, I love thinking of the categories like that. Absolutely have people in the R and D category too. And I agree. I think that helps you set boundaries according to what category they're in for yourself. Yeah.
I also, when I'm sitting with people, and interestingly, a lot of people walk through my door with a cancer diagnosis, but then we stay connected for years, right? And so I've also come to realize in sitting with people and frankly, reflecting on my own life, that the people in your life may shift categories based on what the stressor is. So I've had people say, hey, this person was so awesome during my divorce, but cannot handle my cancer diagnosis. Or this person is out of the woodwork, an unexpected F friend for my cancer diagnosis. And prior to this, I would have never really divulged or gotten that deep with this person. So I think there's something also to knowing that your friends may live in different categories based on your life. And you are not you are not just a cancer diagnosis, right? You are many, many, many things. So when you think about, the unmet need for me today is to connect around my diagnosis and how hard this is, then I kind of think about that categorizing. Or like today, it's around my kids and my gosh, are they going to be okay? And what's happening with my teenagers and whatever. And this other person is really great in that area. It's kind of knowing who your people are. I'm loving that that's helping you. I'm going to bounce back over. I'm looking at my clock. We got 15 minutes. Okay, back to you guys. So when you find that, oh, I'm doing it, I am doling out some toxic positivity to myself. I'm getting in my own way. I'm being critical, or I'm kind of just like really in a fight with my own unsettledness or my own distress. One of the things, first of all, it's not on this slide, but I say it most every talk that I give, and it's certainly the foundation of my work in my private office. And I'm going to give it to you right now as your homework. Can you cultivate a habit? And maybe you're hearing it in other workshops through this weekend. Can you cultivate a habit of checking in on yourself? How am I doing? What's going for me? What's that feeling? How am I feeling? And when you notice your distress, instead of beating yourself up for it, or instead of kind of like trying to button it up and put it away in a bento box and nail it all down, I say one of the strategies is do a reality check. Put it all on the table. Throw everything that's not working in the center of the room. You know what? I've got my cancer diagnosis. I've got treatment. I got side effects. I got all this stuff going on in my life with my family or my kids or my parents or my siblings or my coworkers or my friends. I've got this going on in my home. I've got these deadlines or this happening, all of this stuff, put it all out there. And sometimes when you put it all in the center of the room and you name it and you look at it all, the pile, you're like, well, no wonder I'm feeling overwhelmed. No wonder I feel lost. How could I not feel scared and uncertain? Sometimes when we reality check it and we just look at it, well, gosh, look at all that I'm dealing with. Yeah, hold on. Of course I feel this way. And then when you look at it, a lot of this stuff in the center of this room, not my fault. Like I didn't ask for a cancer diagnosis. I certainly didn't ask for that to recur or to be metastatic. I didn't ask for this, my dishwasher to go out and for this deadline to be due on the same day that I've got to scan. I didn't sign up for that. So that's not my fault that that's all landing in the middle of the room. So when we begin, you didn't design this moment. Another thing that you put in the middle of the room is kind of your own history. You know what, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of wired for anxiety. I tend to be somebody that catastrophizes, or I tend to be somebody that does that. I come by that naturally. It's in my genes. It's part of how I cope. It's part of how I view the world. You know what? I didn't ask for that either. Thanks, mom and dad. Whatever it is, so put it all in the middle of the room. You didn't design this moment. When we begin to reality check, you begin to disengage from shame and blame. We begin to separate from, it's not my fault, and feeling really bad about not being able to handle it. Okay. So the power of that is to disengage with shame and blame. And then remember my feelings circle, begin to take, well, now that I'm looking at everything I'm dealing with, well, now what? Now what? So where do I have control? Or how do I take some responsibility for awareness and self-care? Well, you know what? I've got a scan coming up. I've got a doctor's appointment in 2 days. I've got to make some new treatment decision. It's feeling overwhelming. I got news that the treatment that I'm on isn't working. And no wonder I'm feeling scared. No wonder I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so I think, given that I'm looking at that in the eye right now and I'm being honest, I'm giving myself a reality check, I'm going to lower my expectations today. I'm going to take it down a notch. I'm going to say no to this and no to this because I can't. Today, I need to slow it down. Today, I need to give myself permission to have compassion and to take care of myself. And the question I often tell people to kind of say to themselves is, how in this moment of struggle can I be helpful, not harmful? How can I be helpful right now? Can I reach out? What do you have in your control? Can I slow it down? Can I lower the expectations? Can I reach out to an F friend or a D friend, maybe delegate some stuff on the list? Can an F friend sit with me over the phone and just listen and hear this? Can I get outside for some perspective and some nature? What can I do that can be helpful, not harmful? That reality check moment and that question that you can ask yourself can be so healing and so helpful in that moment of distress. So that's how we kind of navigate that toxic positivity ourselves. I have been so wanting to get through our slides and find all of that, to have time with you, that we did it. So we've got about 10 minutes. So there's a lot going on in the chat, and I want to open it up to you. Feel free to continue in the chat. Krista, I'll let you read or find some things that you found that are good little nuggets, or people can unmute and share if they want.
Yeah, if anybody wants to unmute, feel free. I'm not seeing a lot of questions, just a lot of comments about the category. I myself too really like the category of friends too.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions or anything? I noticed that one person mentioned earlier about their therapist actually saying everything happens for a reason, and somebody said, is there a way to say you're fired and tell your therapist that it happened for a reason?
I think, I think also, and I've watched this too, survivor to survivor. Sometimes when people are in a different place, they want to move you there, right? They want to get you to that spot. So I'm just going to, for a quick second, try to jump into that therapist's head as a therapist, right? I'm going to be like, why would a therapist say that to you? Ouch. Maybe it's because there is some research around meaning making that it helps with adjustment. Okay, there legit is. And it's actually being named as like the 6th stage of grief. So when we grieve, if you can find some meaning in your suffering, that helps people with adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on that, right? But the timing is off. The timing is off. That is a delicate, delicate question. And if you are not ready to begin to think about that, or to even be close to that, if you're still in, this is hard, my life has changed, I am feeling great sadness and hurt and anger, that's where we got to meet you. How do you fire that person? I think you educate them, right?
Right. Did I was gonna say too, if anybody, I see another question, how to deal with how do you deal with family that are in denial? And if anybody has a question and wants to unmute, raise your hand on here and I will unmute you. But yeah, how do you deal with family that are in denial?
I think, you could, again, try this. Are there members of your family? It may not be your whole. So family is like one word for a group, right? So can we separate that out? Are there people within your family that you might be able to have that honest conversation? Gosh, I know this is so hard to face and to look at. But when we're not being honest, or when we're trying to be like all sunshiny and hopeful, and that this is all okay, that's not really getting the complexity of this. There are pieces of this that I am coping really well with, if I do say so myself. Thank you very much. But there are also parts of this that are really scary for me and really difficult. And if we only talk about one side, then I'm all alone over here. I'm all alone in that dark stuff. So maybe it's kind of saying that, like, I see where you are and I get it. I want to be there. And it's not that I don't see that too. I do. I think people worry that you're not seeing the whole picture of your experience, you know? And so they want to remind you and you're like, God, I got it. I think I'm a badass myself. Thanks so very much. Right. But I've also got this other stuff going on too. Right. So it's telling them that there's more to me. I'm more complex. And then,
And I just from my perspective, just I always kind of delegated my sister to be the one who was like, my I call her my PR assistant,
yeah,
to relay things. Like, we get tired of talking about things over and over, or sometimes even consoling friends or family who are in denial or whatever they're feeling about our diagnosis. So yeah, I would say even just having someone who knows how you feel, knows what you're going through, that you're communicating with, to kind of be there to deal with that, so that you don't have to. You already have a lot on your plate that, sometimes it's too much to take care of other people's emotions too.
yeah, there's that choice again, right? Like, can I deal with this right now or not? I see somebody else is writing in there about their dad. And
Yeah, we had somebody asking about toxic positivity with a boss also.
yeah, okay, I'm gonna get to boss here in a second. But the dad one, like in family you don't really want to separate from, right? It's your family and you want to be close to them, or many people do. I mean, their families are different for everybody. I get that. And so that's hard. And I think if we can have the hard conversation of, I know you want this to all be okay for me. And I know you want me to be fine and not struggling. And I do too. We have the same want. I want that for myself too. But if we are not honest about this, then we aren't that really both of you have the exact same need. We are on the same page. I feel the same thing. And you must be scared too. I'm scared. Can we join each other there? Because if we can talk about what's hard, we're gonna get to that other side faster and easier. Can it be both? The boss. So work is a little different than family, right? Are we right? I mean, different relationships require different things. So in work, and I've sat with many young adults who need accommodations, need some awareness there at work, but also have a strong sense of their identity at work too. Like, they still want to show up, they still want to be committed, they still want to be seen as competent and capable, right? So I think a lot of the sentiments or the communication at work have to come in the form of what we call problem solution statements. So within the same statement, you're going to say, this is the problem that I'm seeing, and this is the solution that I'm considering. Thoughts, right? So, the problem is that, I'm not able to get to work by 9 a.m. and stay for 8 hours every day. That is a problem. Like, I don't have that. What's the word I want? I can't sustain that. I don't have that energy level. I'm very committed to what I'm doing though. So I'm thinking about an accommodation in my schedule of getting there at this time, or being able to go home and then finish a couple of things at the end of the day. Thoughts, beginning to kind of talk about that with whether that's your boss or HR. The people in your workplace might also differentiate into categories too. Maybe that's an easy conversation with your supervisor, and a really tricky, awkward one with HR, or maybe it's the flip. Like, my supervisor is not getting it, but HR seems to kind of understand that in a different way. So I can't make a blanket statement on that. You've got to kind of know who's there for me that I can begin to have those honest conversations with. It sounds like some of these words are hitting people in different ways. And remember, then there's somewhere I'm hitting on a need that you've needed, a need to be understood, maybe. I am so glad that you have found your way to YSC Summit too. I mean, I love YSC and I'm going to pump that up, but even just these moments to connect. And if you aren't connected to some peer-to-peer groups in your local area, find them, or find virtual ways to connect. I had Krista and some of the Happily team looking with me at the agenda for this conference. And I'm like, where can they talk more? And y'all, later tonight, you got virtual chat from 8 to 9. You can show on up and keep this conversation going, talk to each other, because in many ways, you're each other's Fs right now too. Right?
Yes, yes, for sure. If you need help locating a face-to-face coordinator too that's local to you, feel free to message me, email me, whatever. My email is kristadenzi@gmail.com. Anybody's free to email me and I can help you.
And you know what I'm going to do, Krista, because you led the way, I'm going to add my email in here too. If there are questions down the road, you can have that. There it is. And my website. There you go. So you've got those two things.
Yeah.
If there are things that come up and you want to continue talking or connecting or ask a question, that's fine. Krista's there. YSC is there.
Yes.
Tonight is there. Let's keep it going.
Yes.
What state are you in?
Me?
Or are you taking new clients? What state are you in?
Shoot me. I don't know where that's coming from, who that's coming from. But if you look in the chat and you see my email there, send me an email and we'll talk offline. Okay. And if you don't get my email, anybody at YSC knows my email. They can find me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think we are fixing to get kicked off any moment now.
Krista, thank you for helping me lead. It's been great to talk with you and the group in this. Thank you all for being so honest and forthcoming in the chat, finding each other there.
Yeah. So excited to be here. I'm excited for the disco later too.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yes.
and we all just kind of quietly keep our fingers crossed that next year we're all in person.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm probably speaking about out of turn with YSC, but those moments to connect and these moments to be able to connect virtually are also wonderful too. There's such benefit.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
All right. If there's anything else, let me know. But I think we're at our time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.